Hey everybody, I hope you're doing well. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. Up front, apologizing a little bit. You'll hear a little raspiness in my voice. I may even got some water. I may cough a couple of times today. Many of you know if you follow me, I was on vacation last week. Went to Mexico with some friends. Had a blast, but I think I partied a little bit too hard, you all, because I've got a little tickle in my throat. Nothing major though. I'll be okay. But anyway, I apologize if you hear the difference in my voice. It'll be back to normal in a couple of days. Not as young as I used to be, but I couldn't tell me that at the time. I had a ball. I want to look at today. You are going to keep this short. This Alito thing is really like it's gone above and beyond. Now we know Alito was on everybody's radar a while ago, and it prompted this whole ethics thing along with Clarence Thomas about accepting gifts. Taking these luxury fishing trips in Alito's case, and then later going on to decide cases that involve that donor. But that aside, now we have this whole situation with him refusing, came right out point blank, said, I am not going to recuse myself from the Jan 6 immunity decision, period. And not that anybody expected that he would, right? We knew. I looked at it before others have looked at it into it and said he's not going to recuse himself. He's just that arrogant. He's just that fixed in feeling protected and insulated. This whole notion now, and it's coming out, and this is what I'm going to spirit for. I am starting to feel that at some point it's going to be down the line, but there must be some sort of ethics reform. And it may take a while to implement, but we are seeing the extent to which things can really go off the rails when the Supreme Court is that final say, and there are no checks or balances concerning these justices' decisions, whether or not they will recuse themselves. There's no, that's it, and that's that. Not even Roberts can step in and tell Alito, okay, buddy, I know how you feel, but I'm the Chief Justice, and here's what I'm going to, it's just, there are no mechanisms in place for that. So I do want to look at that. But on a juicier side, this Martha and Alito. So we know that Justice Alito has come out and basically just washed his hands of this whole flag flying thing and saying, it was my wife. It's all her. I had nothing to do with it. He's not even on the title to the property, apparently, in New Jersey, where that other flag, that Christian nationalist flag flew. That apparently is property that she inherited from her family, and why she wouldn't put her husband of a zillion years on the deed, not my business. But he, so that was his little wiggle room on that one. Not my property, not my situation. But even on the home front, now here's what's interesting. New York Times and some other outlets, of course, they were going to go digging and investigating on this. So they found the Badens, Baden. This is a liberal couple who were living in proximity to the Alito's in their little Alexandria, Virginia enclave. This young couple, very liberal, were very vocal in their feelings about Donald Trump when Donald Trump lost the election. Of course, Martha Ann, up the street did not appreciate that. They had some signage out. They were seen, the Badens were seen out kind of celebrating and dancing when the election was finally called in Biden's favor. And Martha Ann is sitting over there across the street, looking out her window just fuming. Well, things escalated, but this is interesting. So according to Alito, his wife, Martha Ann, put that flag out as a result of this brouhaha with the Badens. Okay, she got upset, she got emotional. This was her way of making her statement. However, when the Times did an investigation and they went and they found corroborative text messages, etc., this situation between the Badens and Martha Ann predated that flag being raised. Okay, so the timeline that Justice Alito is giving in terms of my wife did this because of a situation with neighbors, and the neighbors had gotten out of hand, and this was the only way that she felt she could get back and answer them. Did that explain why? And this again is corroborated through texts back at the time, around 2021. that when the Batons were driving up the street, Martha Ann saw them and spit at their car. All right, this woman. So I was like, wait a minute. So this woman, it's not the first time she's had a little emotional outburst. Come to find out, looking into her a little bit, that that she, once a journalist, always a journalist. You all, bear with me. I love the research, but come to find out, in 2006, when Alito was undergoing his confirmation hearings, and apparently there was some questioning, there was some tough questioning as a part of that about the fact that he was perceived as a bigot. And, so there was a lot of hoopla and blah, blah, blah about, how he was going to have to respond to that. Martha Ann apparently at one point during these hearings jumped up and ran from the room, burst out in tears, and then jumped up and ran from the room during the confirmation hearings for Alito. So this woman's temperament seems to run a little hot, right? Yeah, I mean, it's almost 20 years ago, 2006. But this is who she is. This is not they've been painting her as this super quiet, former librarian, never heard a fly, just content to be in the background, be a homemaker, work with her charities and nonprofits. Martha Ann's coming across like a bit of a hellion, you all, for entertainment purposes only. And so here's the deal. Alito not only is disgusting because he's his dirty laundry is coming out left, right, and center, but given the fact that he's refusing to recuse himself from the Jan 6 decision, but there's also this notion that here you are on the court, hands down, 10 toes down, confident in your decisions about ruling women's bodies. What can be done with women's bodies and reproductive issues. But when it comes to your own home and your own wife's behavior, reflecting on you, your thing is, well, she's entitled to her opinion. It's all her. I respect her right to be herself. Excuse me. Like, not adding up. 2 + 2 does not equal 7.5. I'm sorry, not on any given day. But I want to look, you guys, at what's really happening behind the scenes, because I'm getting a sense that Alito is now in trouble with the other justices in terms of, Clarence Thomas has gone through his share of stuff with Ginny, and the opinions among the other justices due to some of Ginny's behavior. But now that, to some extent, Clarence Thomas has some daylight, some space between a lot of what we know Ginny did during Jan 6 and now what is happening in the present moment with regard to Martha Ann. I want to look at that relationship and see if, in fact, there's tension there. If, in fact, Alito is feeling that she's damaged his career, and if, in fact, he's worried that Two of Swords, they're having some conversations. They've had some conversations. And they're not meeting. This is not a meeting of the minds. This is not a, we're all singing off the same sheet kind of card. This is some conflict but it's also a card very often depicted with the person's blindfolded. So it's almost like Alito is saying, I'm going to look the other way, Martha Ann. However, you and I both see how this is playing out, and it's not good for me. It's not good for either one of us, but it's certainly not good for me. Is Alito worried about his situation prompting or pushing more for reform, ethics reform in the Supreme Court? Does he feel he's going to be sort of the poster child? 8 of Swords. It's stressing him out. Behind the scenes, this is stressing him out. He is concerned that his wife's actions, and thereby his actions, nobody's buying this notion that he just, there's this flag upside down right outside your window, and you had no idea, or you just turned the other cheek and didn't see it. Nobody's buying that. He's worried. He is worried that his image has been tarnished. His ego has taken a broad hit. He's basically making himself look like he's being cuckolded. Is that the term? That's the term Spirit's giving me. Let me know if I'm right about that. Feels like he's being cuckolded, by his wife, by Martha Ann. Very interesting that he's trying to create this distance between, what she has a right to do as a woman and what he feels compelled to do or is capable of doing as a Supreme Court justice. But he is worried, you all, he is worried that these actions by his wife, the son, that's such an interesting card. His delusion, because these positions, we are being reminded due to all of this, you all, the American people, we're being reminded just how powerful these lifetime appointments to the Supreme Court are. The what can be a very strong legacy in the case of someone like a Ginsburg, right? What can be a very powerful legacy that's left there, or what can really be damaging to the country, which is what we are increasingly seeing. But this son is saying he sees this as a lifetime. This is his lifetime mission. This is something that he's been doing now for almost 20 years. And so he really is, in his mind, he really is disassociating the truth of what his wife is doing with what he feels he has earned, and by virtue of his appointment to the court. He sees them as two very distinct things, but he is worried about how his legacy is being impacted. As Nine of Swords, Spirit's doubling down on it. Nine of Swords right behind that 8. These are two of the most anxiety-ridden energies in tarot. These are cards that talk about mind racing over time. Spirit, his opinion, his decision in the Jan 6 immunity case for Donald Trump, is Alito going to come out strongly in favor of immunity? Is his portion of that going to come out strongly in favor of immunity? The Empress, that's his wife. He's cuckolded. The Empress, because she loves the ground Martha Ann loves the ground Donald Trump walks on. In fact, 7 of Cups. He's going to try and take filter behind some of the other justices. So his opinion, his part of the decision, does not feel like it will be the strongest. And he doesn't want it to be the strongest. He doesn't want to come across as the most outspoken. I still am not sure who ultimately is writing the opinion. I know they all get together, argue it, they do whatever, and then somebody actually writes the decision, if I'm not mistaken. I guess maybe that'll be Roberts as the Chief Justice. I'm not sure. Somebody let me know in the comments. You all know it all, which is one reason why I love doing this with you. If you know who's actually going to be responsible for writing that decision, let me know. I know they all have their input, but the person who actually crafts the decision, who is that on the court? That 7 of Cups for Alito feels like he's almost gonna he's in the mix, but he's gonna be weaving and wobbing, what am I trying to say? Bobbing and weaving. There we go. I knew I could get it together. No coffee yet. He's gonna be bobbing and weaving in terms of his visibility with respect to the decision. But we also know that that's also part of that anxiety that we're seeing with that 9 of Swords, because he knows that this situation is going to have all eyes especially trained on him in particular for this Jan 6 immunity. His wife is very, for all of his 8 of Pentacles, he's got his head down. Let me just keep doing my job. Eventually this little blah, blah, blah will pass, right? Similar to the way, we were all raving about the craziness that Jenny has done with Jan 6, the insurrection, and her machinations behind the scenes, right? For entertainment purposes only, again. But he's also like the 8 of Pentacles is a card of just get it done, head down, get it done, exercise, step up to the task of what it is that you're supposed to do. So he's just put his blinders on, and he's just full steam ahead. I am who I am. This is the task that I've been, given. I'm going to see it through, blah, 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 right? He's kind of trying to filter out the noise, but the noise is coming at him from home. And Martha Ann is leaning in, and they are having conversations. And he is aware of that. Excuse me. Nine of Cups. What does he want? What does he want? Nine of Cups being very much a wish card. What does Alito want? Six of Cups. He wishes that he could just sort of take it all, kind of go back to a time where he was not as visible. And he's also he's relying on their history together. Notice even it's a young sort of little couple. He and Martha Ann, they're sort of relying on their history together to ride out this particular time in this particular moment where their laundry is being aired out. Will this ultimately lead to some sort of stringent ethics reform in the Supreme Court? We know Roberts came out and said a few words a couple of months back. Didn't mean a hill of beans. Four of Wands. That's the institution. King of Wands. That is, I don't feel like that's Roberts. That feels like someone down the road. And the Hierophant. You all, yes. And this is going to be some time, though, down the road. There is someone who will ultimately take the mantle because they're going to want, I'm sorry for that. They're going to want to regain the American people's trust in the highest court of the land. There's a lot of, damage control at this point. It's too late. The damage is done. And there's no way out from under it. When they go on break after these last decisions are going to be rendered in June. And again, we've said on immunity, I still feel it. It's going to be a mixed bag. They're not going to come right out and declare that Donald Trump is, or any president is, totally immune from prosecution, has total immunity. But they're going to tweak the laws a little bit in his favor. Be interested to see how that works. I do see this Hierophant is feeling, Spirit is saying there will be some reform. It will come under different leadership. So we're because there's so much damage that is being done by this particular group, or at least the far right portion of it, which now is that majority of it, of the court. There's so much damaging stuff that's coming out, so much that people are just disillusioned, and the respect of the court has been tarnished tremendously. There's someone who's going to come in down the road. None of these guys, Alito, Thomas, Roberts, none of these guys is getting any younger, you all, right? So we'll see. Ace of Swords, thank you. You might, if you work with me, when I get my aces, that's Spirit telling me, yes, I'm on the right track. So yes, there will be ethics reform in the Supreme Court, but it's going to be down the line. In the meanwhile, Alito is trying to put a brave face on the situation with Martha, but he and Martha have been having some really interesting conversations behind the scenes, and he feels like, as a man who is seen as part of this right-wing, beat my chest, men rule the world, we are in charge of what can be done with women's bodies. Women need to just be in the home, cooking meals, getting pregnant, and planting gardens, I suppose. Like, alternate universe. Let's roll it back to the 40s and 50s, why don't we? He's got enough support around that notion, the growth of that in this toxic masculinity, that's what makes him feel good. She comes along and just blows it right in his face, like, who's really wearing the pants at home, right? He knew what was going on. He knew that flag was there. He did not contest it. He went along with her because she is a fiery person. She's emotional. She's convinced that the country, she's got her sensibilities about liberals, about what she thinks, is or isn't proper for people to do, especially women. The devil. I can just pack it up with that, you all. Let's close out on that. The devil. Devil in this instance, meaning I see her energy as someone who is very tied and chained to a way of being and a way of thinking that is not at all based in reality. In the devil card, we are very often faced with fears, but fears being, a false energy appearing real, the acronym for fear, false energy appearing real. Martha Ann is a part of that crew that has decided this is what I believe no matter what. All right. All right, y'all, my air conditioning came on. You're going to probably hear some noise in the background, but I was wrapping up anyway. Have a great day, and I will talk to you a little bit later. Bye.